Okay, right, all of you. So in yesterday's class, we discussed about some scenarios related to Azure Data Factory. There I clearly discussed about the introduction, what is Azure Data Factory, how it is going to work, right? What are the things we are doing, everything we discussed clearly there. So today, we'll discuss more on this environment, Azure Data Factory related only. So basically, ADF, Azure Data Factory, we know that this is cloud ETL environment. So ETL, extraction, transformation, load. What is the purpose of ETL tool? We already discussed in yesterday's class. In the same way, on-premises environment, cloud environment, right? On-premises and cloud. So what is the difference between on-premises ETL tools and cloud ETL tools? We discussed in yesterday's class, right? Generally, suppose you have less amount of data, generally you can go for on-premises ETL tools. But if you have huge data, better to go for cloud environment, because maintenance purpose, in the same way, you know, what we call like storage, security, performance, different things we are going to work, right? So here important point already we discussed ETL operations, right? So ETL or ELT. So generally what happens, you know, we are going to work with different data sources. Here we are going to perform data extraction, and we are going to load data into this environment, right? So here data extraction means what is happening, you know, it is going to connect to data source, connected to data source. So data source means what type of data sources? Sometimes we are going to work with the databases, sometimes we are going to work with the files. See, you can ask questions. Sir, yesterday you discussed some other points, like for example, we have like what we call on-premises databases, cloud databases, different things you discussed. Okay, see, whether you are going to connect to on-premises database or cloud database, it comes under a database connection only. Am I right or not? Okay, na? Right. So you are going to connect it to different data sources. From there, you are going to extract the data, right? So here, where you are going to load data. See, here I'm not given it as data warehouse. Yesterday's class, I discussed like we are going to load data into data warehouse. In the beginning of yesterday's class, I discussed. But after that, I have given clarity. So in the beginning, what's happening? We are going to copy data from different data sources to Azure Data Lake, right? And Azure Data Lake in the same way, Azure SQL database also. But finally, you are going to store it into warehouse. Okay, na? So here, what's happening? You know, so loading data into data lake. So in data lake, we have Gen 1 and Gen 2. Generally, we are going to work with Gen 2 data lake technologies only because of blob storage, BLOB. Right? And so this is regular scenario. So here what's happening, you know, sometimes we are going to work with Synapse also. Synapse, what is the meaning of Synapse? Yesterday we discussed Azure Data Warehouse. We also call it as what? Azure Synapse. Right? And so that is the point. So previously we used to call it as Azure Data Warehouse. Now it is Azure Synapse only. Got my point? And so you're going to extract data. See, we don't know. Sometimes what's happening, we are directly going to store data into data lake environment. So sometimes we're going to store it into Azure data warehouse. But remember, if you want to store data into Synapse, what we are going to do, we are going to work with the transformations, right? And this is what ETL. See, directly, if you want to store data into data lake or storage account, then what happens? You are not going to work with the transformations. Directly, you are going to load data into Azure storage. But see, you are extracting data from the sources. You want to store data into Azure data warehouse database, then you are going to perform transformations, ETL operation. What type of operation is it? ETL. Got my point? So here, when I'm discussing about the transformations, how you are going to perform these transformations. Got my point? So here, pipeline concept we are using. So where we are going to perform these transformations means by using pipeline only, we are going to perform these transformations. Right. So we have different types of pipelines, and Synapse pipeline is available in the same way. We can also go for Azure Databricks related also we can. Okay. Azure Databricks related also we can. Even yesterday also I discussed this point. See, Synapse pipeline, this concept we are going to work out in the beginning. So Databricks concept is somewhat different concept again. Got my point? So data lake is different and Databricks is different. Remember, please. Data lake concept is different. Databricks concept is different. So here I discussed about data lake storage. So Databricks is different concept. Maintain clarity because you are entirely new to this environment, right? And better to maintain clarity from the beginning. Otherwise, you are going to face confusions. At my point. So what is this pipeline concept? Yesterday we discussed pipeline means the task you are going to perform in ADF. Task means what? ETL operation. The ETL operation you are going to perform in ADF environment, that is called as pipeline. We discussed pipeline is going to connect it to some data sources, destinations, data sets, right? Linked services, triggering for execution purpose. Different things we discussed in yesterday's class, right? So these are the things we have. In the same way, yesterday little bit we discussed something like, what is the difference between on-premises ETL tools, cloud ETL tools. Little discussion because it was demo session yesterday, right? So we did little discussion only. But what are the advantages there for ETL? I mean, this tool. What is this tool? ADF tool means. See, what happened? So, as we discussed in the yesterday's class, no infrastructure required. Okay, no infrastructure required. Why? Why infrastructure is not required? Because if it is on-premises environment, you are only going to install, maintain in our local environment. Got my point? That you are going to do in your local environment, everything. But here you are not going to do anything in our local environment, right? Everything is cloud-based. Pay as you go. You are going to pay the amount as per your requirement. So in the same way, no coding. So we are not going to work with any type of coding in this ADF environment. That's why it is suitable for non-technical people also. Right? Low maintenance cost. So maintenance means, for example, you install SQL Server. You have to take care of everything because that is on premises. Suppose server is down, server is not working. Who is going to take care? You only, because that is your local environment. But here it is different. It's not your local environment, right? And so everything, there is some service provider, they are providing everything to us. Right? We are going to use them. That's why maintenance, less maintenance, low maintenance, really. So are you going for any licensed software? No license. Why no license? Because you are not installing any software, right? They're already providing everything. That is the advantage of working with the cloud environment. Everything will be provided by them only. You are going to use them, just pay and use. Right? So these are all advantages of working with the ADF, not only ADF, cloud environment. You go to any cloud environment, these are all advantages. Got my point? This is the way like how the companies are looking towards cloud environments. There are a lot of advantages. Because of that reason only companies, clients are looking for cloud. Even for software engineers also, it is easy to work. Right? So graphical user interface. What type of tool is it? Graphical user interface. Right? So these things, these are the advantages. Because of these advantages only, companies are working with the ADF nowadays. So now coming to next scenario. Even yesterday's class, I have given some idea. So what are the things we are going to perform in ADF? What are the different tasks we are going to perform? I discussed about pipelines, linked services, data sets, different things I discussed. So now let us see them clearly. See, in ADF environment, what you are going to build. Basically, you are going to work with the pipelines concept. Right? And inside pipeline, we are going to work with the different types of activities. See, I can say one thing. Actually, no need to type activities there separately. The reason is, what is pipeline means? It is collection of the activities you are going to perform in ADF environment. Okay, na? It is collection of the activities you are going to perform in ADF environment. That is called pipeline. That is the definition of the pipeline in ADF. So now you can ask questions, sir, what type of activities we are going to perform? So we are going to work with the linked services. So linked service means simply I can say connection to different data sources, destinations. Here what's happening, we have different data sources in the same different data destinations. That is ETL environment means, right? And that's what we are doing here. In the same way, we have something called as IR concept. IR means integration runtime. Correct? In the same way, we are going to work with the data sets also. Data set means simple. I can say like it is, suppose your data source is table, destination is, sorry, your data source is database, destination is database. Data set means table only. How the data is going to store in the form of tables, right? Sorry, I think this is the fifth point. So we have some other scenario, new thing, that is data flow. So this data flow concept newly introduced into ADF environment. So data flow, it was there in some other ETL environments. Even we have data flow concept in Power BI also, but it is newly introduced into this. So we are going to work with that also. Don't worry about that. Okay. So coming to next scenario, we have to work more on this. This pipeline concept, we have to work more. I can say, so base the entire operations in Power BI environment. Base is what? In ADF, what is the base for ADF? Base for ADF is pipeline only, no doubt. So why you are, what you are going to create in ADF environment means simply you can say you are going to create pipelines in ADF environment. That's what you are going to do. Right? And I said, like, what is this ADF concept? Sorry, what is this pipeline concept? What I said, pipeline means it is collection of different activities. So whatever the different activities you are going to perform in this environment, we call them as pipeline. So what are these things? Activities. Different activities you are going to perform here. That is called pipeline, collection of the activities. So activities means what type of activities you are going to perform here. What type of activities? Data related activities only. Data operations only we are performing, right? And Shriram, close this door. Okay, helping. Data related activities only we are going to perform. So data related activities means ETL operations, because you are working with ETL tool, right? You are working with ETL tool, and so data related operations means what? Copy data concept. Basically, ETL means copy data concept. So actually here, I'll give you some examples. Copy data activity. So copy data activity means, again, we can say different things here. For example, copying data from containers, I mean files to file source to destinations, files to SQL Server database, Azure SQL. And SQL means Azure SQL only, because we are working with Azure environment. Forget about on-premises because you're not working with on-premises tools now. You're working with the cloud. So copy data activity means copying data from file to file, file to SQL, SQL to SQL, this type of activities. So in the same way, metadata related activities, condition based operations. Condition based means if else. So because of that reason only, what I'm saying, is there any prerequisite for the ADF? Means some people says that no, directly you can start working with ADF. But I say better to learn something about SQL. If else concept, you don't know anything about if else. Conditional statements. We call them as conditional statements basically in SQL environment. So you don't know anything about if else concept. Directly I'm taking you to ADF. How can you understand ADF concept? Tell me. In ADF directly, I'm going to show you some activity, if else, conditional statement related activity. Can you follow me? No, you cannot. In the same way, we have some other activities for each activities, looping activities. Generally, even we have on-premises environment from Microsoft Corporation. I told you SSIS, SQL Server Integration Services. There we have some concept called as containers concept. For loop container, for each loop container, right? Sequence container. So different types of container tasks available, right? Right. So those container tasks also really important for us. So you see, if you know SSIS, that is advantage, but that is not mandatory, right? Because that is on-premises environment. But we are working with cloud environment now. ADF is cloud environment, right? And so what I'm trying to say, suppose you know something about SQL queries part, that will help you. No doubt. Now you can ask some questions. Sir, you discussed about some activities now. Copy activity, well, something filter. I forgot to type filter also. Filter activities also there. So what is this? How it is going to work? Before going to start practical, let's see some. Let's explain some more scenarios. Some more clarity required. Generally, in the beginning, you expect that only, right? And generally, what happens? Suppose you are working with some pipeline activity. Activity pipeline is collection of the activities only, right? Okay, na? Okay. So what's happening? You're going to work with some source. In the same way, sync. This is your source. Whatever the source, just leave it. Because we already discussed. We have different types of sources. We already discussed. Sync. What is this sync? Sync means destination, but we also call it as target. What is? We can also call it as target, but just leave it sync all. Okay, now. So here, in between these, you are going to work with some other activities. What is the flow now? This is the flow. See, just leave it. Just leave it. So beginning, I discussed like copy activity. Copy activity means what? So you are just going to work with the source. So suppose file, okay, select file source. Suppose table, okay, fine, select table source. Copy it and store it into sync. This is plain activity because we are not using any transformation there, right? Any activity is there in between, is not there in between source and sync, right? And At my point. But it's not like that. Sometimes, not sometimes. Maximum what happens, you're going to work with something here. Like this. So here, what type of scenarios we can do? We already discussed simple filters we can work, right? So cleaning data we can work. We have some other activities we're going to work. Suppose filter, you can ask some questions. Sir, what is the meaning of filter? Suppose you have some table. Suppose employee table. So you are going to copy same table, employee table from source to sink. So what type of filter is required here? Suppose my filter is salary greater than 3,000, then only extract. Otherwise, don't extract. So filter means what? Condition. Filter means what? Condition. What is the condition now? Salary greater than 3,000. Just example, understanding purpose. Uses we'll see. That is different scenario. Got my point? These are all because ETL operations means these things only. So here something I want to discuss some more points here. Something like suppose employee. What is this? Dataset. Dataset. The data object, whatever we are going to extract from the source. Right? That is called dataset. Sometimes see, not only table, just now I'm taking table and so now I'm taking table, sometimes file system also. So this is the point. Here, better to discuss more. See, there is some table. Table is coming here. You're performing some activity. After that, you're going to load it into sink destination. So what type of activity you're going to perform? This is the activity you're going to perform. So what this activity is doing here? See, we don't know what type, number of employees working, employees available in the source and their salaries. That is not required for us. What is our requirement? Our requirement is we need employees data. We are going to copy employees data from source to sink based on some requirement. What is the requirement? Tell me. Salary greater than 3,000. Right? So what happens now? Only salary greater than 3,000 employees data is going to copy from source to sink. That's what happening. That's what going to happen. That is the point. Okay. So now I want to give you some more clarity on this. Okay, just leave it. So you're going to perform some activities here, just leave it. Fine. So this is your pipeline, for example. You connect it to some source, to sink and some transformation. Okay, done. But where is this source? Tell me. Where is this sink? Storage only, right? This is in Azure environment only. Source is in Azure environment only. Sync is also in Azure environment only. Right? Storage means what I said. Sometimes databases, sometimes files. That's what we discussed. Azure Data Lake or Azure SQL Server. So now the question is, okay, fine. This is a drag and drop. Pipeline creation is drag and drop. You can work. Okay, fine. But what about storage? So that means it's better to learn something about data lake related and Azure SQL. Suppose if it is real-time environment, they can maintain somebody. But some companies, what's happening, they're looking for ADF developer with this knowledge, who can efficiently work with the configuration part of storage, Azure storage, like data lake related, Azure SQL related. Right? These are the things they are looking for. So because of that reason only, what we are doing now, we are going to work with these things also in this trial. In the same way, we are also going to work with SQL related scenarios in the beginning, because here, there we have something like stored procedures. In this configuration only, we are going to work with something, stored procedures related. Right? But totally, what is the requirement means you need some account. So we have paid account and free account also. We are going to work with the free account. Paid means again it becomes costliest for you. Right? Not costliest, but of course, free account you are going to create in Azure portal, azure.com. There you are going to work. Let me show that. I have some account here. Sometimes what happens, it is going to create troubles to me. The reason is I'm working with multiple trainings, right? Azure.com. Yeah, it's already logged in. So this is the environment. Directly you're going to work like this. Here directly I can work with ADF environment. I can create resources, these things. This is the architecture basically. Architecture means what we are going to do. Resource we are going to create, a resource group, then resources. I'll explain clearly. I'll show them practically. Don't worry about that. Let me show ADF environment. So I already configured ADF here. Just we're going to open ADF environment like this. Right, Azure Data Factory environment. This is also we are only going to configure. I'm going to teach this. See this here. If you go to this, you can see different pipelines, data sets I created some pipelines. Suppose pipeline 1, previously created, just for understanding purpose. See this source, file system. See this is a file. Sync. What is the sync? File only. At my point, previous trainings, I created these things. Easy to work. You can see here, move and transform, copy data, data flow. Everything is here on activities. Under activities, you can see. That's why I explained same thing in today's class. This Power Query concept, same concept we have in Power BI. So data lake related. Patch services, general scenarios. See this deleting, appending, execute pipelines, executing SSIS packages, different things, lookup. I'm going to teach you them. Stored procedures, right? And different things, general activities. Declaration conditions, filters. Just all I discussed in the class. If condition, for each condition. Switch. So the base for these things is SQL queries. If you know little bit SQL queries, you can easily work with this. The same points I discussed in the class. Same we are going to work. Some people ask me, sir, in real time, are we going to work with same environment? Why not? Why not? Same we are going to work in even real time also. Here I have some other pipeline created here. Source database. See that it is showing database. Sync is also database one. Azure SQL to Azure SQL. Some other pipeline is here. Source file system. Sync database. File system to database. Copy activities. Right? These are all. See, we're going to work with all these. So tomorrow onwards, I'm going to start working with creating accounts. Practical, I already told you. Practical account, practical scenarios I'm going to do. Moreover, if you have time, better to install on-premises SQL server in our laptop for practice SQL queries, because that is required for us, right? Okay. So now tell me if you have any questions. And somewhat data warehouse concepts knowledge also required. SQL server queries part and data warehouse knowledge concepts, that also I'm going to discuss. Don't worry about that. Okay. So any questions, please? In today's class, we're already recording. Yesterday's class recorded, today's class recording. We will give you recordings. So don't worry about that. Okay. No? That is okay. Any questions, please? Any questions you can ask, no problem. Sarita.
Sir?
Yeah. Tell me, please.
Yeah. In Azure Data Lake also will use SQL?
No. Data lake is different. Azure SQL is different. Okay. Now. Okay. But similarities will be there. Storage means similarities will be there. That's why better to maintain. Okay. Na?
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi Suresh, good evening. This is Nagman here.
Nagman, tell me.
Yeah, actually, recently I have attended the one more interview. In this, many recruiters asking like a Python programming language for ADF. So that is it?
No. ADF Python programming language is not required, but I think that is completely ADF like data engineering or data science related to Java you applied, it seems. That's why they're asking about Python there.
Okay, for so this for ADF we don't we are not
Python. Little
right?
bit shell scripting is required for us that I'm going to teach in this training.
Okay, shell scripting. Okay.
Yeah.
And one more, is it any required for Docker?
No, Docker is different. Actually, Docker, that is like Azure administration, Azure DevOps, there we are going to work with the Dockers related. So there we need Docker somewhat, what we call like Linux kind of required for that. Azure administration part is different. And DevOps, Azure DevOps, that is different scenario completely.
Okay.
Okay, now?
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Shavia, tell me.
When we are creating IR, we'll use the VNet, right?
Okay.
Will you show me the how to configure VNet?
See, we are
also
doing
in
whatever the configurations we are doing, everything practical only. Okay.
Okay.
So that we are going to
Thank
do.
you.
Whatever required, we are going to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any questions, please? Ravi Shekhar, you joined late today, it seems, right?
Yes. And one more thing, what you will cover in Synapse also covered in this course? Synapse analytics.
Synapse?
Yeah.
Yeah. That is the base, right? That is data warehouse, right? Basically.
And, someone is asking on Azure ADF plus, Synapse is asking our interview, so many interviews. That's why I'm asking.
Okay, no problem.
Okay. How many, course duration?
1 month. Yeah. Anybody, any questions, please? Okay, right. Don't miss tomorrow's class. Tomorrow also in most valuable introductions, practical oriented, we're going to do. Don't miss those concepts. Okay. See you tomorrow then. Bye.